Hello everyone, welcome to a very much delayed episode of Music of the Week. I did want to get this out sooner, but I had to help with food and then eat the food and then wash dishes and so on and so forth. And it is currently 5 to 9 p.m. I have 5 albums to go through. I better get to stepping because I've got a lot of work to do after this as well. Yeah. We begin with Dope with their newest album Blood Money Part 0, the prequel to Blood Money Part 1, and the album we all thought was going to be Blood Money Part 2. It gets a grade of Blood Money Part D. It gets a D. I think this might be one of the worst albums of this year so far. I didn't quite like it. Luckily, it's the lowest grade of this episode. But yeah, I didn't really care for this album a whole lot. The thing is, it gets off to a really interesting start. But I think a lot of Dope's shtick has really worn off there. I think most of it's just down to Edsel Dope's ego and him being really unable to control it. And unable to really sing either. There's a lot of auto-tune on his voice, and when he sings like gruff and aggressively and doesn't need it, he sounds great. Unfortunately, that's only on like the first song on this album, which is No Respect, which is easily the best song on the album because everything else afterwards is a tonally inconsistent and poorly written mess. The lyrics have never been their strong suit and they're especially weak here. The riffs are very stupidly repetitive at times, although the drumming is pretty good for the most part, which is mostly just due to drummer Daniel Fox trying his best to save the album. It is overproduced and overcompressed in some really bad ways, and structurally wise it just flip-flops between its moods without really building up very strongly to either of them. It needed more of that like grouchy sort of No Regrets style oomph, and I really need to listen to No Regrets in full at some point because I've heard good things about that album. But yeah, no, this album is not No Regrets, and I regret having heard it, and I regret having to grade it in this episode because it was bad, so try to avoid it. Luckily, the next album is a lot better. It's Gorillaz with their newest offering, Cracker Island. And I know this is very sort of like mainstreamy seeming episode, but that's sort of the end of it really with Gorillaz and the newest album. But I did quite like it and it gets the highest grade of this episode with an A. I think it might be some of their best work in a while. It's got a less is more vibe to it. The instrumental and beat work is really good. I like how there's a bit more like funk in the guitar and bass work, and there's some really nice drums too. Good synth stuff, good sax and brass stuff at times as well, but integrated really well with the band's signature like dark hip hop elements. Although it's not as dark as previous albums, which I quite like. It's got sort of an edge to it, but it's a bit more optimistic in terms of its tone. It's got really good lyricism, main themes on like love and things like that. The guest spots are incredible. Thundercat and Stevie Nicks are special standards for me. Bad Bunny's song is pretty great too. I would probably like it more if I understood or spoke Spanish. But, you know, he does a good performance, and I can't really deny that from the man. He's a music star for a reason. Yeah, structurally wise, again, a bit on the shorter side. At least the songs feel short, but it delivers it in quite a very fun way, and it's just got a really nice flow to it. The production's gorgeous as well. It's so nicely put together in terms of that. And I've gone through, pretty much every aspect of this album. Just go find and listen to it. It's really good, and hot take, I think it might be the best album since Demon Days, which is saying something because a lot of the stuff in between has been good, but like nothing has really quite reached that height since, and I think Cracker Island might be the exception. But that's just me. So very quick to cover my bases on the first 2 artists I covered. Dope is an industrial metal / nu metal band. Gorillaz is an alternative hip hop, alternative sort of indie lo-fi rock sort of thing. I'm bringing that up as I head into the third band and their third album, fittingly enough. Narrowhead with their new album Moments of Clarity. These are a shoegazy sort of garage hardcore style sort of thing. Well, not so much garagey, it's a lot cleaner than that style would indicate. I'm giving this a B plus though. I was pleasantly surprised by it. It reminded me a lot of I'll look the band up really quick, hang on. Teenagers, who are a band I quite like. They're a very good modern shoegazy band. Narrowhead are a little bit heavier, they're a bit more grungy in a lot of the instrumental work. It's very, very thick and dense. It reminded me of Black Button's album in a lot of ways, but not as punky, which is completely fine because, when grunge is done well, it does serve a great purpose, and grunge is done really well on Narrowhead's newest album. Production-wise, again, very thick and dense and very nicely focused. I quite like a lot of the songwriting. Again, there does seem to be sort of a focus on love and possibly a breakup, maybe told through a concept. I'm not really fully sure on that. The performances are pretty great as well. I quite like the band chemistry, and yeah, structure-wise, it is a bit of a long album. In fact, I think it might be the longest album in this entire thing, but it's still worth a listen. I quite liked it. If you want some like new sort of really good grunge stuff for a band that's not been around that long, I think they're only about a decade into their career by now, I would recommend giving this one a spin. I quite liked it. Next we have Shame with their newest album Food for Worms. These are a post-punk indie rock sort of act, and I will admit I liked Food for Worms, and it gets a B+. I thought Drunk Tank Pink was better. That was their last album, which came out in 2021, and that album was kind of snubbed from my top 30 all in all, so I do apologise. I thought this album was really good too. I think, in terms of structure, it's a bit wobblier and a bit more uncertain of itself in some places, but it's still really well put together in terms of a structure. The lyrical themes, again, sort of kind of indicate a theme of jealousy and a breakup. I'm not fully sure on how to really interpret it, which is weird because the lyrics are fairly easy to find. I just couldn't really find a whole lot when it came to it. But the performances are still pretty great. I quite like the instrumental work a lot, especially. Production is also a very strong point of the band, especially the label they're on. They've been with them for a while now. I think it's Dead Oceans or something along those lines is the name of the label. But yeah, no, the band do put out a really good album. I don't see myself going back to this as much as I did Drunk Tank Pink in 2021, but I still thought this had some really strong merit. Strong songwriting in points, some really good lyrics as well, yeah, same thing, sort of. But pretty strong instrumental work when they want it to be, and I think the production is one of the biggest things that saves it. So again, something that also is worth your while. And finally for this episode, we have To The Grave with their new album, Director's Cuts. Now, as people know, I like bands from Australia. This is a band from Australia, and I think it might be to my detriment that I like them a bit much, but I'm still giving this album an A- anyway. Thing is, it's deathcore, and it doesn't really do nothing new for deathcore, especially compared to last year with extreme albums like Ingested's new one, Lorna Shore, and Shadow of Intent, all putting out amazing super heavy music albums. But I don't know, there's just something about the attitude behind this one that I really liked, and the sense of just not really giving too much of a shit, which is something that the band have always been, well, I was going to say the band have always been pretty good at it. This is my first time listening to them. It is a very brutal album too. I think that's where it excels. In terms of its instrumentation, it is super heavy, super big, and punches really fucking hard. The lyrics do not hold back either. I think the performance is pretty great, especially for the lead singer. He could rival Will Ramos just for his insane growling alone, and some of his singing isn't bad, but it's his screams where he really fucking shines. I quite like the drummer as well, whoever does that. Pretty much all the instrumental work, including the bass, even though you can't really hear it super well when it comes to deathcore. Production-wise, it's a lot cleaner than I was expecting it to be, but it's still, again, very focused, very tight, and very intelligently put together. And structure-wise, also pretty goddamn great. I quite liked how, again, it is a long album. It does have kind of a couple of stumbles, but it picks up really fucking well, especially with the final song, Die Rise. It's an 8-minute long epic sort of thing, and it fits the fucking vibe super well. So yeah, this is just another one worth checking out. And that will about do it. The next things I'll see you for will be tomorrow night with Break Even. Hopefully I'll have the pay-per-view arena made up by then, and then well, not much after that, maybe a Fight of the Night on Sunday. I don't really know what else there'll be, but yeah, I'll likely see you tomorrow night for Break Even. It's going to be a really good show, and now I've got to get to work on the pay-per-view arena for Break Even. God, wish me luck. As always, thank you for... Oh, hang on. Forgot to do the ranking thing. So, least favourite to most favourite would be Dope with Blood Money Pod 0, Shame with Food for Worms, Narrowhead with Moments of Clarity, To The Grave with Director's Cuts, and Gorillaz with Cracker Island. But again, listen to all of these, give them all at least one spin. Maybe except for Dope's album, but give the rest a go, absolutely. And that'll about do it. As always, thank you for watching. You're awesome. Bye-bye.